Hello everyone, today I wanted to sit down and have a bit of a chat about this last year but also 2022 and my reading goals, resolutions and my general, I guess, hopes and dreams of this coming year. And 2022 is kind of a special year, I think, for me as a part of this kind of booktube community because it's actually my 10-year anniversary of this channel. It hadn't really dawned on me that it had been such a long amount of time, and to think that there was never a year in which I didn't make a video. So you literally have me going from a child to an adult and all of those little kind of changes from, you know, different universities, from moving to London, to my job, to changing jobs. Just so much of my life has been documented on YouTube, and that's a wonderful thing. But I've also started going back and making some videos private because we do not need to see me grow up now. It's fine, we have arrived at this destination. It's quite strange because there's like a whole kind of separate portfolio that I can see, say portfolio, but all of these videos of just like my flat tours from university and like these videos that I want to keep because they kind of document something really special in my life and include friends and things over time, you know, probably don't want to be kind of in a YouTube video, you know, that I made when I was like 16, 17. I'm never one for privatization, so you know when I private a video, it needs to be pirated. But I have to say a massive thank you for lots of you who I know who have been with me on this journey, and I'm sure I'll actually make a video about it on my actual anniversary because obviously I'm speaking a little bit ahead here, but I know quite a few of you have been with me for a really long time, and so I think when I kind of think about my reading and me as like a person who makes videos about books on the internet, I just kind of have to mention it because it is such a big deal, and the community itself has completely changed. Like when I was really making videos, I always like to think about my prime in like 2014, let's say. You know, so many of my friends made YouTube videos. Like I made some of my really great best friends on this platform, you know, people who are now going to be my maid of honor at my wedding, and the majority of them don't make videos anymore. So it's kind of like also now realizing that this community that I think I'm still a part of has really changed because half the people have left, and kind of realizing where do I fit in now with the booktube community. Who am I? Who do I sit with at lunch? That's kind of how I feel. Like I feel a little bit just kind of waving at people from afar. So anyway, that is kind of a big, lovely kind of anniversary, I think, for me personally. But a huge thank you if you have been watching me for a really long time, because we really have kind of grown up together, I feel. But another part of this video, as well as kind of talking about 2022, I'd also like to use it as a way to kind of get a few kind of Q&A questions. It's something that I did last year. I did a Q&A last in the new year, I think January, and it's so interesting now to go back and watch that video because some of my answers were like specifically about careers, and I was a different person and have gone on a slightly different career path than I thought when I made that video. So I'm quite keen to do another kind of Q&A about life, books, everything. So if you do have any questions that you would like to ask, please leave them in the comments of this description and I'll gather them all together, and then later on at some point I will make a Q&A. So my 10-year anniversary is something that's going to be happening this year. Ben and I are also hoping to finally get married this year, even though that is not a goal. I always kind of get really weirded out when people kind of view getting married as an achievement, but because we have had so many cancellations, in a way, if we do actually get down an aisle, that in itself will be an achievement. This is also, I think, probably going to be our last year in London. We're thinking about moving, so this year will be a year of change potentially, but you know, no kind of set in stone plans. I always joke to Ben that we really have to kind of spread out our kind of big life events, because last year was okay because I got my new job at Boldwood and we got Sybil, and Ben's company actually got bought by another company. Ben published a lot of games in 2021. So actually, you know, we did have quite a few big life events. In 2020, because of the pandemic, I think we had none. I got an award with work, but there was nothing like massive, and so I think that was fine. But I think we need to try and keep 2020 low-key, but then as soon as you say you're getting married, it's suddenly no longer low-key. Anyway, that's about life, and you'll all hear about books. 2021 as a reading year was quite interesting, and I have done a video about my top books of 2021, which I think kind of gives an indication of where I was. To be honest, 2021 was such a busy year for me, I think, in terms of my career, that reading fell by the wayside a bit, and I think I was listening to a lot of audiobooks and not sitting actually and reading, which is, you know, both a completely, you know, valid ways of reading, and I'm a huge audiobook lover, but I don't think I was actually allowing myself time to sit down and be the only activity I'm doing is reading. I was kind of listening to a book while cleaning, or while I was on my way to somewhere, or, you know, while I was doing a spreadsheet. Like, I wasn't allowing reading to be the one activity I was doing. It's not like I was sitting down and listening to an audiobook and that be the only activity. I was very much rushed, and I think that is how I kind of felt my 2021 was. Slightly chaotic, wonderful, really great year for lots of different reasons, but also just chaos. At the end of 2021, I was really putting an emphasis on just sitting down and reading, and I completely fell back in love with just sitting and reading, the simple pleasures. And it's not even about kind of allocating time, like when people say, oh, I'm gonna read, I don't know, 2 chapters a day. It's not even that kind of need for allocating time. It's actually just physically reading, because I remember as a child, you know, wanting to go to bed and read into my covers and having that really pleasurable experience of reading a book in bed. And I just think I've slightly lost that over time, and so that's my big focus, is to kind of get that kind of pleasure back into my kind of day-to-day life. The goal of kind of taking pleasure in reading is also kind of linked to genre, because I think I do just read non-fiction in a different way. I think I'm great reading non-fiction, you know, at my desk on a break, in between things, but actually saving some time to escape to another world and be really involved in the fiction of a novel, I think does require a slightly different space for me, and because I read so much non-fiction, I kind of have been missing that world a little bit. And I think it's also just reminding myself of being a reader and the fact that I love being a reader. You would think, because I make videos about books and obviously I work with books and I talk about books a lot, you would think that it would be impossible for me to forget that joy, but I think somehow in the chaos it just slowly happened. But it's not also that, it's just also taking pleasure in different things. In different years I loved podcasts and I watched loads of documentaries and put a lot of time into that, whereas this year I really kind of want that to be reading, because that's what I feel like I need this year, and maybe next year it'll be different. But yeah, my goal is just to take pleasure in reading and being a reader. Last year was also the first year that I stopped charting my reading kind of publicly. Obviously I know with my channel, but I read a lot more books that I don't discuss on my channel, on my Instagram, and so I deleted kind of Goodreads and made anything I had private, and also went back to my book journal, which has been a really nice way of just kind of noting down what I've been reading, and that has been kind of just felt more personal, and it's made it not a competitive game that I kind of am competing against other people. So I'm definitely going to continue that in 2022. The only real downside of that is that I'm kind of missing the community aspect of when I'm looking to read a new book, being able to see if any of my friends have read it and loved it, because that has always been historically a great way for me to kind of know if I'm going to enjoy it. But I think that's also just about me finding a community again on YouTube and finding people with like-minded interests and kind of getting my recommendations there in the way that I used to, you know, in my prime of YouTube, and kind of using this as a book recommendation platform a little bit more. So I'm going to be exploring that, but continuing to kind of chart my reading a little bit more privately. It's become a slight running joke that this is going to be my year of Dickens, because I think I've been saying it's going to be my year of Dickens since 2019. So I can confirm this is my year of Dickens. I'm sure maybe I will read a Dickens novel this year, but I also don't want to put pressure. I've never done TBRs. Me saying I'm going to read that particular book this year or that particular author is just never going to work, in the same way that TBRs just don't work for me, because I have hyperfixation. So because I can't always predict, I can kind of feel them coming, but I can't predict what I'm going to be really fixated on. And then once I get something that I'm fixated on, that's the only thing, it's the only topic that exists in the entire world. And then I have to read every single book around that topic and every single documentary and every podcast that I can possibly find. It's like me when I discovered the Vikings this September. I then like went to every museum I could, you know, that was near me that had Viking things, read every book I could do that was about the Vikings, watched all the documentaries, everything. And you know, when I was a little girl, I just used to call it passion. Now I call it something slightly different. So no Year of Dickens or 2022 TBR. That is not the announcement I'm making in this video. Think of TBRs actually. The other thing that I have been doing this January is actually a book buying ban. And even though I've done book buying bans in the way that I didn't have the money to just buy books, so I didn't. I actually just spent a lot of kind of money at the end of 2021, and even though I know in comparison to booktube, what I bought across 3 months is probably what some people buy on a shopping trip or, you know, in 1 month's book haul. So I'm aware that this is all relative, but then, you know, comparison to just a person, you know, on the street or the kind of regular reader, it is a lot of books. But anyway, everything is always relative. But I just kind of treated myself a lot towards the end of the month, and I think I have to be realistic with actually, if we are going to move, I bought a lot of hardbacks at the Waterstones hardback sale, because I treated myself to all of those kind of history books that I've been wanting and just never buying, because buying a hardback always feels like such a treat. It's just something I rarely do. And so I definitely treated myself, and I went to a lot of lectures at the end of the year, and bought books kind of from the academics. And yeah, so I just treated myself. I had a lovely time, but I think, you know, we have to be realistic with life and our means, and that's my decision. So I'm going on a ban, and I am being flexible with it in the way that there are certain books that are coming out that I really would like, and I know I'll kind of read as soon as they come out, and I'll buy those. And if I go to any particular events where I know the author's going to be there, for me that's like an exception. But yeah, that is kind of what I'm doing. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to be going book shopping every single weekend, because that's how I enjoy spending my time. It's how I enjoy life. My spending habits really mirror, and I hope some of you feel like this, they mirror how I'm feeling. So if I've had a tough week, if I'm tired and maybe I'm feeling a bit low, my brain goes, spend money, get that joy back via capitalism. Fundamentally, I was just treating myself too often. Don't get me wrong, I think I'm great and I think I deserve lots of things, but I was treating myself if I did a good job at stuff. You know, if I had a great week, good things happen, I'd buy myself. But I was doing the same thing when things were just like I was just bored or just slightly sad. And so yeah, I've been kind of thinking more about that relationship and why I spend money and how. But also I should say that thinking about this makes it sound like way more serious, because the reality is I save a lot of money per month. I don't actually buy a lot of things, but you know, life changes and that's my decision. And we'll see how it goes, because I went to Waterstones today actually and saw 2 books that I really want to read. So we'll just have to see how it goes. I think that's probably enough chatter from me now. I can't actually think of any other life goals I have for this year. I think probably work-life balance is a great one to start with. I'm really loving my job at Boldwood. I feel really happy in the team, and just that whole kind of career move and career shift has just worked brilliantly. But that is something I need to work on in 2022. So I think that's kind of it. I thought I'd actually end this by talking about the book I'm currently reading. I literally just started it last night and I'm not sure what I think of it. And also one thing I'll say is that I just haven't felt, I haven't found a book that sparks joy. Like, I just don't know what to read next. And I think I picked this up maybe not feeling like it's actually the right time for this book, and maybe I should read a different book. But because I haven't felt drawn to anything else, I'm just kind of in this weird limbo of wanting to have that pleasurable reading experience I talked about earlier, but actually just you know, I think half of that is also about finding the right book, and I don't think I found it yet. But I'm currently reading The Age of Innocence by Edith Wharton, because this has been on my bookshelf since university. Like, I bought this book in York, I'm pretty certain, and I'm not quite sure at the moment how I feel. I kind of like the discussions on kind of taste and form in New York society, and kind of looking at people, you know, inside that society and also outside of it, or on the outskirts of it. But I'll have to see how I feel about this one, so please let me know if you have any particular feelings about Edith Wharton, have any recommendations, because I do really want to read about the Gilded Age at the moment, but I just think that actually this book, we'll have to see. I just realised there are Sybil hairs everywhere. Wonderful. And also I read with a pencil, which is also been chewed by Sybil, because I'm annotating, which actually has been a little while because I've been reading a lot of non-fiction. I don't tend to annotate non-fiction, so it's been quite nice of an evening actually sitting and writing on this book and making lots of different notes. Again, pretending that I'm at university, which is maybe a sign that I need to go back. Just drop my pencil. Thank you for watching this video, and a special thanks to anybody who's been around for the whole 10 years, which is insane. If you do have any questions for me, please just put them in the comments and I'll collect them all and put them in a Q&A. But yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon in another video.